Good morning, everyone. I wish I could speak the language, but I hope we all speak English and we can follow the presentation. I want to say welcome to you. My name is Vivien, and I'm here this morning to present to you a topic that I have titled "Enhance Your Testing Skills with Mindset Tools." I know this is automation community, but it's not strictly about automation and it's not strictly about manual testing. But this talks about, you developing a mindset that helps you to test effectively, whichever you're doing, whether it's manual testing or automated testing. I work currently with a company called Axis Communications in Sweden. And what we do is we develop network security cameras. And before this time, I've been working with Ericsson and Ericsson mobile platforms with embedded systems. After that, I joined Baxter Healthcare with development of kidney dialysis machines, and I was working with Baxter for 4 years. And I newly joined Axis last year, June. During this presentation, I will use terminologies like code and build. And basically what I mean is a piece of software. And PUT is product under test or program under test, for example. Now, what is tester's mindset? I'll define the tester's mindset as a way of reasoning that determines behavior, outlook, and mental attitude of a tester, programmer, project manager, or even a test lead, towards testing of a program under test. Now, if testing is questioning the product under test in order to gain useful information that can be used for making decisions about the quality of the product, then I would like to define the tester's mindset as the reasoning that is needed for questioning and investigating the product under test. I would like to say that it requires that the tester continuously asks the question, how can I effectively provide valuable information that can be used for making decisions about the quality of the product under test? And it also requires you, the project manager, you, the test lead, and the programmers to continuously ask the question, how can I support testing in order to enhance the release of a quality product? And I tell you one thing, if we're going to ever deliver quality products, we have to work together. We have a common goal of, producing quality. Now, I started as a tester that knew little or nothing about testing. And I remember those days, I used to be in a situation where I test a piece of software, and then another tester test the software, and they find bugs that I didn't find. Usually, I used to be embarrassed. I don't know if you have testers like that here today. I'm like, how come you saw something I didn't see? What's the difference? So initially, I thought maybe it's because of experience, because they have more experience than myself. So I consoled myself, and I said, well, over time, I will gain experience. But not too long after that, I discovered that even young testers who were employed at the same time as myself were also finding bugs in a piece of software that was already tested by me or another tester on the project. So I was like, I don't think it's about experience. So I thought maybe, okay, it's about certification. So I went into people's profile, testers' profile, and I looked at certifications that people did, and I tried to do certifications, but it didn't really help me much. So I said to myself, okay, maybe they have been reading books. So I started to read books. I read The Perfect Software, and How to Break a Software, and a host of other books. And I still read books today. But it was not speedy to get me to where I thought I should be. So I started thinking, what could I do? Because one thing that I realized is I need to grow. I need to know something that all these other people, something that I don't know. So one thing that occurred to me was that I should start to observe what was happening on the project. And I tell you, when I started to observe, I discovered that a lot of things were happening. One thing that I observed was that a lot of times when I'm testing, I'm like this guy. I try to approach testing, with a single tool. And you know what happens when you approach a problem with just a hammer and you have all these nails? It doesn't work. So I discovered that a lot of times I have a rigid mindset, and I try to use that same mindset to test, every feature, that I was assigned to test. So after this, I came to a conclusion that in testing, different tasks require different lenses, viewed at different angles, with different mindset. So hence, there's a need for me as a tester, to tweak, to adapt my reasoning, in different circumstances and based on whatever feature or product that I'm testing. So I started to observe. As I observed, I was reflecting. As I reflected, I tried to act and respond to the result of my reflections. Because one thing is that a lot of us are not observant. We don't observe. And if we do observe, we don't reflect on our observations. And if we reflect on our observations, a lot of times we do nothing. So I try to act and respond to my, to the result of my reflections by adapting my reasoning. And I tell you, I started to discover that, there were a lot of reasoning that were useful, and I call them mindset. So I started to put a label on every mindset that I found useful. And over time, my mindset, the different kind of mindset that I identified, started to evolve into what I call my mindset toolkit today. I have a list of them. It's still growing, it's still evolving. And I tell you, this has helped me to become a tester that is valuable on the projects that I've worked in. Today, I'll be sharing with us on a few of these tools, how I developed them, how I use them. But at the end of the presentation, I'm not just trying to teach you what I developed, but I also want you to get inspired to develop your own tools. Because one thing about testing is that testing is concept, dependent. And sometimes you need to just develop your own tools and find your own approach, depending on the environment that you find yourself, depending on how your projects are structured and depending on the product that you're developing or you're testing. The user mindset tool. A lot of times, when I was growing up as a tester, I got into situations where I find a bug, and the programmer or the project manager, they make conclusion that the users will not use this product this way, so it's not a valid bug. And then I let it go because I had little knowledge. But on one occasion, the product was released, and the first few defects that we got from the customers was actually that one, that the programmer said that the users will not use the product that way. And guess what? What happened? The users actually use the product the way we said that they will not use the product. So I thought to myself, I need to learn something from this. One, I need to find more bugs in this category. And then if I find these bugs, I need to be able to convince my project manager that this bug is valid and it needs to be fixed, because I think that was where I failed in this occasion. So I concluded that, the users will experience the product with their 5 different organs. And as a tester, when I test, I need to think about what they will do with their mouth functions, how they will interact with the product, with their side functions, their touch functions, and even smell. And someone asked me, how do the users use the smell organ, to experience the product? But I tell you, there are products like that. So I came up with these tweaks, and I want to say that I have a bit of text in the presentation, and it's because I want to be able to read this to you. You read it also, but I think there are quite a lot, and it's difficult if I just remove them. So I came up with these mindset tweaks. And when I talk about mindset tweaks, they are just a summary of lessons learned from this story, which I have identified, and I make them into bullets. And when I test, I try to adapt my mindset according to this list of tweaks. So when I use the user mindset tool, I reason that users will experience the product using their 5 senses. So I need to think about, how would they, touch the product? How would they, for example, when you test a mobile phone, how they speak and how they receive calls and all of that. And one thing is that human beings are exploratory in nature. They will explore the product. And they explore the product even beyond the requirement, beyond the specification of the product. I reason that to help my reasoning about the program under test, I need to gather information. And I tell you, when you test, you need to try to find out about the product that you are testing beyond what you are given. You need to find out from the system support if they have, feedback on issues that have been reported on previous versions of the product, or you need to go on the internet or in some way find out, gather information. I will emphasize on this later on in the presentation. Some time ago, I was assigned to support a project that was they were in limited launch. And when I say limited launch, they tried to release a number of the products to the customers, and they want to get feedback before they do a major launch. And when I got to the project, the test lead said, Vivien, test this suit and just do a quick check, because we have not changed anything in the feature that we tested in this suit. But because we did a hardware change, we need to just do some kind of regression test. But before this time, as soon as I got to know that I was going to support the project, I tried to find out information. And this is what I talk about when I say you should gather information. And while gathering information, I got to know that the limited launch was not doing well. They were having a lot of issues. So as soon as she told me that I should do a quick check, in my mind, I said, if we're having problem in limited launch, that means that the testers have not found problems that they should find. So I decided to just ignore, the quick check approach, and I approached the test suite with an open mind. Towards the end of a 4 hours test, I noticed an abnormal behavior in the graph. It was very strange, but it was almost like 5 minutes to the end of the test. The test runs for 4 hours. I repeated it again and again, and I could reproduce it. So I went to talk to the test lead. I said, I think there's something wrong with the software. I can't just put a pass. She said, no, Vivien, they already tested it. It passed before. I said, but I'm very, very sure that something is wrong. I'm sorry, I can't put a pass on this. She was a bit upset, and, reluctantly, she said, okay, write, a bug report. Then I wrote like 5 bug reports, in a row, and that was quite a lot for a project that was supposed to be done in a few days. So it raised a lot of attention on the project. It was a whole long story, but to cut the story short, they discovered that these bugs were actually very severe bugs, and it was a medical equipment. There were bugs that could have actually killed someone. So the project manager called me, and he said, Vivien, I think they should bring you to this project early, next time, that these bugs are severe and we start to fix them, right away. But after that incident, I just sat down, I'm like, what if I didn't pay attention, to that abnormal behavior that I saw? What if I just decided that, okay, she said they have passed already, and I just test them like they have passed already? Then we would have shipped, this software with all the bugs, and the company reputation would have been at risk, and, so many other things would have happened. So after this occurrence, I came up with this tool, and I call it Already Tested Mindset Tool. And I reason when I test to consider quality of the testing that was previously done. What was the quality of testing that was done, on that feature before? Consider pressure tester possibility. And I say this because when I went to investigate about this test suite, I discovered that the guy that tested it before was actually under a lot of pressure when he was testing. He was given very little time to test, and he just did what he could do. So, and I know a lot of times in software development projects, we're working under a lot of pressure. So when you're testing, think about what was the quality of testing that was done before. Could this have been at risk? Consider the fact that we see differently. What's your name, please? Midri. If Midri should test, and I test, he probably will see things that I didn't see. And that's because we have very varying level of expertise. He probably has more competence than myself. He probably has more exposure, or for some reasons, he sees things in different way compared to the way that I see it. So we consider the fact that we reason differently and we have varying expertise. Consider so-called insignificant changes. And I came up with this trick because of something that happened on the project. My programmer friend, said that he told a tester to merge a piece of code. And you know what he told the tester? He said, don't test. I didn't change anything. Just merge it to Git. And the tester merged, and then in the next 1 hour, no one could use the main branch. And they started to investigate, and they discovered that it was that piece of software that he told the tester to just merge without testing. And he said, oh, but I didn't change anything. I only removed a line of unused code. But by the time he went to investigate, he discovered that while he was removing that line, when he highlighted, then he added another valid code, and he deleted. So as far as I was concerned, he didn't change anything, but he had deleted something, unknown to him. So we should consider this. So when you get a piece of software and it says, no, I didn't change anything, no, I just did a little change. It's always good to think about it. I like this guy. I like him because he's very successful. A lot of the successful people are my friends. So. But some time ago, I was sitting in a meeting and the head of software said, the lazy tester found that bug. I was curious, a lazy tester, what does it mean? And then he continued, he said, it's good to have them on the project, but not too many of them. Wow. It's good to have lazy tester on the project? I was so curious, and then I took the bug ID. After the meeting, I went to check who the lazy tester was. And I discovered it was one of my colleagues who was known for finding severe bugs. And asked me, how does he find them? He's testing, and he takes a break, to go to the coffee machine. When he gets to the coffee machine, he finds one of his friends, and they start to talk, and he forgets himself. And then he gets back to the machine after 1 hour, for example, and he discovers that something has happened. So when he goes to report the error that he discovered, he tells the story and say, I forgot myself at the coffee machine. And because he had many stories about forgetting himself, I think they started to call him the lazy tester. But I talked to myself and what can I learn from this incident? Because it seems that my head of software seemed to realize that there's some kind of value in laziness. So when I researched about laziness, I found that quote from Bill Gates, and it says, I will always choose a lazy tester or a lazy person to do difficult job because he will find an easy way to do it. So there seemed to be some value in laziness. So I came up with this tool, and I call it the lazy tester mindset. Now, I'm not encouraging you to be lazy. Don't be lazy. But I'm just saying we can switch to that mindset and use that mindset to develop test ideas and find bugs in the software. So I came up with these tweaks. Explore what the lazy tester does, because they explore the software in ways that hardworking testers don't. And by these also, I want to say to test lead, don't write off lazy testers. If you're a test lead, if my head of software sees that there's value in lazy testers, then I think there might be value in that lazy tester on your project. I will talk a bit about the mindset of the test lead later on, and probably I emphasize on this. I newly joined a company some time ago, and I was assigned to work with a programmer. And the programmer, a lot of times when I approach him, he's always very puffed up like a peacock. In my mind, I was like, okay, I haven't met him before. Is it that it doesn't just like my face, or what's happening? But as a tester, I know that my role or my job is to get information, and whatever I have to do to get that, I need to do it. So I decided to pass by his desk, from time to time. I just say, hello, how are you? I just want to, how is your family? And then he looks at me in a very strange way initially, and is like, yeah, fine, fine. Then over time, if I ever find a bug in his software, I don't go with that excitement of like, I found a bug. I just go to him and I say like, okay, I noticed, something in the software, a behavior. Can you help me to understand? And then he follows me to look at it, and I reproduce what I've seen. And he says, this is not okay. And I'm like, okay, should I file a bug report? And then he says, yes. And then, over time, we became quite friendly with each other, and he was one of my best, friends in the company before he left. When this incident happened, I came up with this tool, and, a lot of other incidences. The programmer wants to make the software, and, the tester says we want to break it. But I don't know if any of you can relate to this, that sometimes it's maybe it's not as bad as this, but there's a lot of struggles, between the testers and the programmers on the project. And sometimes we have the situation. The programmer says, is there a problem? If they like, they should be done. And the tester says, well, we already found all the bugs. If they like, they should fix it. And one thing we forget, if we have this situation, is that if the boat sinks, what's going to happen? Everybody will sink. And when you have this kind of attitude, we see projects being canceled, here and there, because we have a very wrong attitude on the project. And sometimes it's like this. We throw especially when it's not a Scrum team, maybe it's a waterfall or V-model kind of approach to testing, then we're just throwing, the program under test from the programmers to the tester, and back and forth. So after this kind of incidences, I came up with these tweaks that, it's my responsibility to make sure my role is understood. And therefore, I need to let everybody know that I'm here to help. Because what you do as a tester is official criticism. And I tell you, nobody accepts criticism in good faith. So if you have to criticize something, then you need to let the person that's being criticized know that, see, this is to help. It's not to make you feel bad. We need to show it. We need to make it obvious. We need to say, I'm here to make the programmer's day. And I came up with this because I went to a workplace and I discovered an inscription that says, I'm here to make the developers or the programmer's day miserable. And I'm like, when you have that kind of inscription, what is going to happen? The programmer says that, okay, they are here to make us miserable, and we're going to make them miserable also. But rather, we're here to make the programmer's day. I reason that it's my responsibility to ensure an atmosphere of common goal of delivering a quality product. And for testers, when you test, your role is to provide valuable information that can be used to make decisions about the quality of the product. So, do everything morally right to build good relationship with programmers. And when I gave this presentation in Canada, someone asked me, he said, I don't think it's possible to be a friend to programmer as a tester. I mean, why should you be a programmer's friend? I'm like, we have to be friends. And he said, how do you do it? I said, in my office, and everybody knows that I can joke with you to any level. I can be as friendly as possible. But when it comes to the quality of the product, if I want to discuss a bug, I don't joke with that one. And I also, relate, in a friendly way. Thank you. 10 more minutes. I need to go fast. Then I try to be a friend, but I don't compromise integrity. My integrity. Some time ago, I was working in a team, and it was a programmer that everybody trusted. And they trusted her to the level that when she develops a code, she tells the tester, just merge it. I've already tested. And over time, sometimes we discover recurring bugs that were supposedly fixed by this programmer. And I see that the tester had said, I tested, but why is it recurring? Well, sometimes it could be broken again, but it became a bit questionable. So I was assigned to work with her some time ago, at some point, and it was actually a critical feature that we were changing, and we were going to push the software, to the customers the next day. And, she made the fixes, and she said, Vivien, I already tested this. Just do a very quick check and merge it. But because of the pre-information that I have, I was reluctant to just do a quick check like that. So I tested with an open mind, and then I found the first bug, and I found the second one. When I found the second one, I just walked to the project manager, and I said, you know what? I think I need more time. And my project manager said, it's okay, Vivien, take your time. So at the end of the day, by the time I found the fifth bug, the programmer said, you know what? I think I don't know how this feature was supposed to work. So we had to sit down and try to understand how the feature was supposed to work. And then she made her fixes, and we were able to push the fix to the customers eventually. So a skeptical approach to testing can significantly improve the quality of your work as a tester. It's a minor change. It won't break anything. It's a bait for the integrity of the work of a tester and a programmer also. When you program, don't just conclude like, I just made, it's just a slight change. And I want to appeal to us because people often say, don't trust a programmer. And I want to say that that is very wrong. We trust the programmer, but we don't trust the developed code. That was something that happened in my workplace. The programmer, we were actually tight on time. So he told me, he said, Vivien, I already tested this in unit test, so don't bother testing it. Just, test other things. But I was a bit, I had a bit of feeling that I should still check, that at least it's working. So I did a test, and what he said he tested actually failed. So I had one problem. How should I go and tell him that I tested what he said I shouldn't test? So it occurred to me that I should make a test around that feature and then use that, to talk to him. So I did that, and I went to talk to him. I said, this is what happened. He came and he had a look at it, and he said, but I tested it in unit test. I said, well, it's the nature of code. And then he looked at me and said, Vivien, you're not going to trust me again. And I told him, I said, you know what? I trust you, but I don't trust the code. Because the nature of code is to have bugs. And that's the understanding we should have when we work in development projects, that we should take away the issue of trust from individuals. We should trust ourselves because everyone is working to deliver quality, and they put in a lot of time to make things work. But it is the nature of what we do that bugs will always exist in the code. So I came up with these tweaks, never to commit a code based on, it was just a small change. Never to commit a code based on how good the programmer is. There is no such thing like perfect programmer in the world of software development. I let the programmers know that I trust them, and I'm here to uphold that trust. Though we have, very little time, you can always appeal that I need more time, just like I did in the situation that I related to us. I will just go very fast on this because of time. Yes, I have 5 minutes more. We create windows in the building. We create everything. There are features, but also there are avenues for the mice, to come in. And it's the same thing with the software. As long as we're creating features, bugs will always exist. I have the analytical mindset too. And when I talk about this, I'm still developing it, but I want to just share a bit of what I already have with you. It's a composition of, different skills or different mindsets. You have problem solving, curiosity, creativity, critical thinking, data analysis, communication, investigation, and logical thinking. And when we work in software development projects as a tester, as a programmer, even as a project manager and test lead, you need to have a mindset that works with all of this that are listed. But basically, I will be sharing with you about a curiosity mindset. Because in my experience, I find myself in situations where I'm asked to test something and there are no requirements. On one occasion, I was asked to test a language package. And it was myself and a colleague of mine. And my colleague said, Vivien, I don't know what to test. Sometimes it's difficult to come up with test ideas, for certain features. But because I already have this in place, I was able to come up with test ideas of what we should test. And basically, I have these that I call the 7W plus 1H mindset tweaking technique. Maybe some of us have seen something similar to this. But what I do is try to throw these questions, at the software, How is it going to be used? For example, what if they don't use it this way? What will this be used for? Who is going to use the feature or the product? Which of these are most important to think about? Why would somebody use this product, for example? When will they use this product and where will they use it? And I tell you, this where option, actually helped us on one project because we've been selling the products in different parts of the world, but we never sold in India. So when we decided to go to India, what happened? They had a different altitude. And then the machine got affected by the altitude change. But if we didn't develop tests, based on the location of where the product would be sold, then we would have missed a lot of issues, that we ran into when we went to India. So I use this to come up with test ideas, in situations where we have limited requirements or I don't even have requirements, or sometimes the requirement is so shallow and I still need to deliver quality. So I have these tweaks, and because of time, maybe you just read through them. Do we have any test lead in this? Anyone who is a test lead? Yeah, okay. Because of that, I will just go through the test lead tweak. I'm going to give the presentation slide, and you can read them, and you can ask me questions, after the presentation. I have a bit more than the time, but I decided to put everything because I think they will be useful for you. So I have much more than what 30 minutes is enough, to cover. But when you have the slides, you can go through them. Who can recognize what this is? What is this? You said? Ladybird. Oh, she's so smart. Now she spoiled everything. In most places, it's difficult to guess, but maybe it took time. She was the only one, right? It's a ladybird. But what I try to show by this picture is initially when you saw that, it was difficult to recognize, or it probably takes you time. And that is what happens when you write a bug report that no one can understand as a tester. I've had situations where I had to reproduce issues that, the bug report could not be understood and the tester has left the company already. And sometimes when you can't reproduce the issue, what happens? We lost that information forever. So I have tweaks for the bug reporting mindset. You need to put the legs and the mouth and the eyes of the bug when you find the bug so that the person that is reading can understand. And we need to be clear, and you need to be, to provide sufficient information that helps to reproduce the bug. And for the sake of the test lead, I will round up in 2 minutes. I've been in situations where you have test lead, and actually there was a junior tester that I was mentoring, and she was moved from my team to another team. And when she got to the new team, the test lead says you cannot report a bug. She must approve that it's a bug. And if she decides that it's not a bug, then it's not a bug. So the testers didn't have any kind of flexibility. It was so rigid, and she was very, very unhappy. And I think it's a very wrong approach that the test lead has to approve. The tester should be well equipped enough to say that this is a bug or not, but not that the test lead will make those decisions. So I came up with these tricks of, for test leading, that we should have a composition. You should reason as a test lead that you have a composition of various skills and expertise in your team. We see differently and we reason differently. So when you assign your test activities, look at the competence of the testers that you have in your team and what they can best do. For example, even lazy testers. Identify individuals' talents and strengths and harness that in allocating them to test activities. Never use the same yardstick to measure the competence and value of testers in the team. Beware of motivation killers. I've been in teams and the tester says, for example, that lady that I told you, she was already demotivated. And we have cases where testers are not allowed to report bugs. So the testers will just say, okay, since we are not allowed to report them, what's the use of finding bugs? All of these things, demotivate the team. And as a test lead, you need to beware. And also beware of lack of appreciation. Appreciate everyone in the team equally. Sometimes some testers are better appreciated because they find more bugs than some. But the one that's finding few bugs, sometimes maybe she finds severe bugs, but it takes her 2 days, 3 days to find that bug. But there's another tester who finds very obvious bugs, and she's finding 10 bugs, but they are just simple things that are easy to find. But because the quantity is more, you think that, this tester is better than, this one. It should never happen. And it's the same with programmers. The project lead, please don't measure your programmers based on how many bugs is found in their code or, how many bugs is found in their code, because this demotivates the team quite a lot. It's a very bad demotivator. I will round up now, but I have business mindset. I have criticism and accusation handling, which I also think is important in software development projects for, everyone working to have a mindset to undo this. And then when I thought about the mindset, I tried to look for a theory that supports this, and I discovered the work of Carol Dweck. She talked about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So I categorize the mindset as, fixed versus growth testers mindset. And when you look in the slide, all of these are the tendencies of the fixed mindset, and these ones are the tendencies of the growth mindset. You can look at it in the slide. And in some conferences that I've been to, they asked me, how can we cram, these mindset tools? And I went back home and I thought to myself, I don't want people to cram it, but rather I want you to use it and also develop your own tools. So I came up with this model that I call the HORA model. And basically is what I did to come up with these mindset tools. 1, observe, reflect, adapt your reasoning according to your reflections. Try to put a label on mindset that you find useful. And as you do that, I believe you will find it useful and you become more and more valuable on your projects. So what are we going to do now? If we're ready and we're set, please, let's grow our mindset for a better software development team. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to those guys. They made it possible for me to be here today. I have 3 kids. They're 18, 16, and 13. And I have a husband. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Vivien. And now we have 5 minutes to take questions. Guys, the guy who will ask the best question will get a free, freshly designed Comaqa t-shirt. So don't hesitate.
Hi, my name is Olga. So the question that I have in my mind is that the whole presentation implies that the topic, all the problems comes from the difference of the mindset of the tester who develops his mindset all the time, and the mindset of the developer and the whole team and maybe project manager. So did you try to approach this problem with changing their mindset as well? Because it will just close all the majority of issues at the root cause.
Thank you very much. That was a very, that's a very good question. And I've gotten that question also before. And I'm just going to show you something. I think, yeah. So when I got this question, I didn't have this in the slide. I removed it because of time. Everyone needs to develop a mindset. Everyone on the project needs to develop a level of testers mindset. Now, it's not only the testers that need to develop a mindset, but because the testers can't work alone. They need support of programmers, they need support of project managers, they need support of test leads. So there is actually an approach, it's just that I have little time for programmers, project managers, and test leads to also develop their mindset for us to be able to, work effectively. But if I shift, if we look at it, I have the percentage. If you're talking about the programmer's mindset, then the percentage of programmers will be, quite huge, and then every other person fall in place. Do we understand? Yeah, did I answer the question? Yeah. But, I targeted testers because I think most of us here are testers, right? Do we have project managers? We have 2 test leads, and then testers. Can I see your hands up? Yeah, so we have a lot of testers, much more, and then it was more useful that we should, but everybody should develop their mindset. Thank you. Yeah.
One more?
First of all, thanks for your presentation. It was very interesting. And my question is, as testers, we should know all about the user, how it behaves, how it uses our system. So, and you mentioned that we should know everything about it. So it's our responsibility.
Yeah.
But my question is, how should we know this information if we just join the project and don't know anything about it? So it's our responsibility to gather this information, or it's like product owner should help us to give us this information, because sometimes we don't have a possibility to use Google Analytics and something like that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Very good question. It could be a very difficult thing, especially if it's a product. Maybe this is the first the first version of the product, so there's no information on the internet. But what you could do is, because the project might not think that they should, when they hire you, they think they have a competent tester. So it probably doesn't occur to them that, we have to give him information. As some project managers, if they know, and the test lead, they do provide information, but what if they don't know? So what I do, I talk to the system support, if it's a product that has been in existence, and I try to find out, is there any information you have about issues that have been reported on this product? But if this product has not existed before, I remember I was working with a brand of the machine, and we were implementing IT connectivity on the kidney machine. And this we've not done before, so it was no information. And it was a bit tough to get. So even the programmers didn't know. For a long time, it was like a jungle. We didn't know, how should this look? What should we do? But what I kept doing was I kept talking to the programmers, because they got some kind of requirement from the marketing guys and the stakeholders in general. So I talked to them and tried to find out. And then I talked to the project manager, because also we are developing this product for somebody, and they know about this information. So I tried to ask them, is there any document that describes what this product should do in detail? Sometimes also, this project, they didn't really know much about it. It was over time, but you could get information from those sources. Programmers, project manager, documents, that have been written when we decided to, produce the product, something like that. Did I answer the question? It's still difficult sometimes, right? But before you start testing, the programmer has implemented something, because that's why you have to also, you try to think very wide. Now this product is developed to do something based on the explanation that the programmer has given you. It will do this, I implemented this. And then sometimes you just have to think and imagine, what could somebody do with this product? I remember the IT connectivity project, I start to tell them, I think somebody will use a product like this, and they start telling me, no, nobody will do it like that. And when I went back and I thought, and then something occurred to me that I'm originally from Nigeria. So like, somebody will do this in Nigeria, someone will do this in India. So I went back and I said, I think someone will do this, maybe in Sweden, nobody will do this because they think that these are trained nurses. But I think a nurse that had been in traffic for 2 hours before she got to job, she got to work on that day, might make this mistake. And then when I talk like that, they're like, oh yeah, maybe. You understand? So, yeah. Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, Vivien. We are running out of time.